You know, it's always a pleasure. It's rare, but always a pleasure to have our buddy Brett Baer on. And he's a good man. He's a friend of mine. He does the news straight, which makes him a great journalist. There aren't many of those left. And he also, every couple of years, comes out with these fantastic books on the presidency and presidents. And his sixth one is Teddy Roosevelt. I would argue it's his best book. It's just a fascinating book, fascinating subject. Teddy Roosevelt's a very complicated figure and a very important figure. And he's got this great book out. I want you to run to Amazon, and we have it all over our social media. It's a great read this week, and they'll deliver it tomorrow. To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. Brett Baer, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Isn't it easier to do radio than TV? I mean, as far as I know, you're sitting there in your underwear, right? It's just the truth.
I'm dressed, but there's no makeup.
Okay. By the way, on that note, my wife says you put on more makeup than I do. Now, it's not that I put on more. I have to put it on more often. You understand. It's weird. All right, let's get to it. This is a great book. We had you on the TV program. I told you it was a great book. It's a tough subject. You know, some presidents are, they're just white bread. This guy is really dynamic. Sometimes he has conflicting viewpoints, changing viewpoints. What is your thumbnail sketch of this man?
Well, first of all, he kind of jumps off the page. You know, the anecdotes about him, how he talks, the passion, the energy. He is a figure that is really interesting in history. But he is an enigma. You can't kind of pin him down. What this book focuses on is, as president, his wish that his legacy be that America is forward-leaning in the world, that it is a global leader. And so each one of these books, and it's hard to believe, but there's been 6 of these that we've done: Eisenhower, Reagan, FDR, Grant, Washington, and now Teddy Roosevelt. Each one has looked at a soda straw moment in history that maybe was overlooked. And this soda straw, looking at it, is that Roosevelt wants to be forward-leaning. He does so by reaching out to Russia and Japan, that is in a territorial dispute that's devolving into a war quickly and could be a world war. He says, he telegrams, he writes them, says, I will host a peace negotiation, and he gets them to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And he shuttled diplomacy. He goes back and forth. He sets up the logistics. He does it all. And eventually they get a peace deal, a treaty. And for that, America is recognized, and Teddy Roosevelt's recognized with the Nobel Peace Prize. That moment, history doesn't really say is the biggest thing for Teddy Roosevelt, because as you mentioned, there's about 9 different lives of this guy. But it is really what his legacy will be. We turn into a superpower as the nation turns into the next century.
And yet, he was what we would call today a progressive. I mean, he was closer to Woodrow Wilson's domestic ideology than he was William Howard Taft, and he got very angry at Taft. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Taft, first of all, on the progressive stuff, he is. He was a capitalist. He was for capitalism, but he said he wanted capitalism for everyone. He, obviously grows up in a wealthy family and kind of an elitist background, but he is always taught to care for the little guy and to really protect the downtrodden. He's the first president that gets involved in a labor dispute in a coal mining strike in 1902. He files 40 antitrust lawsuits against, big companies, which doesn't go over too well. But on Taft, when he's leaving office, he thinks Taft is going to essentially be a rubber stamp on what he's been doing. And Taft takes a different road, much as Roosevelt took a different road when he took over for McKinley after the assassination. But he gets mad and decides, I'm going to run. He's not following what I thought he was going to follow. He was much more conservative, Taft, and he becomes the Progressive Party, the Bull Moose Party. He gives a speech in Milwaukee where he An assassin tries to take him out. The bullet hits an eyeglass case and 50 pages of a speech in his breast pocket. It gets into his chest. He's bleeding, but he delivers a speech for 45 minutes. And his force of personality gets him the most votes of any independent party, more than Ross Perot in that race against Bill Clinton and George H.W.
Can you imagine if he had been assassinated? You would have 2 presidents out of 3 taken out. I mean, just horrific what was going on then. Now, at the beginning, though, he had been a very powerful governor of New York, and they wanted to get him out of New York because that was the, financial center, and it's one of the reasons they offered him and gave him the vice presidency, no?
Exactly. He's, each one of his jobs, as state lawmaker, he was a troublemaker. He was kind of stirring the pot. The establishment couldn't stand him, and he became this populist. As police commissioner, he's rankling the rank and file, and he's going after corrupt cops, and he brings a reporter with him. He causes trouble. As New York governor, the same thing for big business, really a problem. And the establishment says, we have to get rid of this guy, or we have to take care of him. What are we going to do with him? Well, at the time, vice president was the place to box somebody in because it was largely ceremonial. And, McKinley's friend, Senator Hanna, says to the president, all you have to do is stay alive for 4 years to prevent this crazy guy from becoming president. And 6 months later, Teddy Roosevelt becomes the youngest president in our history.
When we come back, Brett Baer, and I hope you'll stay with us another segment, I want to dig more deeply into this man, his family, how he grew up. A lot of our Republican presidents, some Democrat presidents, use him as a model, use him as an example. McCain did, in many respects, when he was running. He admired Roosevelt very, very much. The book, ladies and gentlemen, To Rescue the American Spirit, get it on Amazon.com. I want to encourage you to go there right now. Any major bookstore tonight and over the weekend when you do your shopping will have it. It's a great book, To Rescue the American Spirit. Brett Baer, we'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. We're here with our friend Brett Baer at Fox News, at least for now, I hear, Brett. To Rescue the American Spirit. I just thought I'd dig that one in. It's To Rescue the American Spirit. You're going to love the book, folks. If you like this show, if you like what we talk about, you're going to love this book, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. That'd be the United States, obviously. So his youth initially was pretty tough, wasn't it, Brett?
It was. He had debilitating asthma. He could not really even get out of bed. His mom at the time didn't think he was going to amount to much. Some people didn't think he was going to live. He lived his life, inside, looking through a window. And they tried everything. In those days, they had some weird remedies. The parents made him smoke cigars and drink heavy black coffee, which did not work and made him more sick. But overall, he got outdoors, and eventually he outgrew the asthma, but it took time. There's this amazing shot a picture in the hour on Fox Nation where Abraham Lincoln's funeral the procession is going up Broadway past the Roosevelt brownstone, and there are two kids in the window, and one of them is Teddy Roosevelt.
Isn't that amazing?
Think about that moment.
Yeah.
And the next time that they would interact or see each other would be on Mount Rushmore, Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah. But then he grew out of that, and then he became extremely athletic and so forth, right?
He did. His father really bucked him up, and he said, you have to get through this. He spends a lot of time outdoors. He becomes a boxer. He really builds himself up. And when he's governor of New York, he gets this boxing coach, and he comes in and he starts, jabbing with him, and the guy throws a jab, and he says, stop. This is not working. You have to hit me. And the boxing coach is sheepish, but it's the governor of New York, and he says, fine. And he hits him, and then Roosevelt gives him a 1-2 and knocks him out. He was a big, tough guy. He was only 5'10", but he was kind of like burly.
And the Rough Riders. He was really a Rough Rider. He saw action, didn't he?
He did. He went out to North Dakota in the territory, in the Badlands, to find himself, because his love of his life, Alice Hathaway, giving birth to their daughter, Alice, dies, and his mother dies in the same brownstone on the same day, Valentine's Day, and the desperate despair and grief forces him to go out west. And he lives out there for 2 years, kind of recovering from that grief. But he meets interesting people, ranchers, cowboys, a whole bunch of different people. And when he gets back, and after being New York Police Commissioner and going on to Assistant Secretary of the Navy, he resigns when the Spanish-American War starts because he wants to fight. And he recruits the guys that he worked with and was alongside in North Dakota, the ranchers and the cowboys. And he also recruits guys from Harvard. And that Star Wars bar of fighters become the Rough Riders that he brings to Cuba and to fight in the Spanish-American War.
So he loses the race for the presidency, even though he gives it a hell of a shot. What happens to him after that? What does he do, and how old is he when he passes away?
So he gets the presidency at 42. When he dies, he's 60. He's young. He travels the world. He loses, obviously, at that Bull Moose run. He decides he's going to go even further. He goes to South America and does this crazy trip down what was called the River of Doubt. He almost dies from malaria and other diseases. Comes back, and he's actually the leading candidate for the next election. But his son, Quentin, dies as a fighter pilot in World War I. And that despair, that grief, many people believe, is what killed him at age 60.
And he died from what, a heart attack? Yeah.
He did. He died in his sleep, peacefully, and but it was a heart attack, yeah.
Let me tell you, this is a fantastic book, folks. To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. To Rescue the American Spirit. Why did you give it that title? What did you mean by that?
Because I think the thought that America was going to be great in the world was a thought that we wanted to have spirit to lead. And I also think that at the time, there was all kinds of whether you could get the country together. He had this thing, new nationalism, which in today's parlance might be America first. Pretty close. And there are a lot of similarities in this book between the president we have currently and this president. His energy is nonstop. But the forward-leaning on foreign policy is pretty significant.
And the forward-leaning on foreign policy, he built this majestic navy, right? And he put it to use. And the Panama Canal, didn't that begin under him too?
It did. So on the Navy front, Japan starts acting up, and he decides that America needs to show its force in the world. So he paints the battle gray ships white, gleaming white, and called the Great White Fleet. And he sends this armada of ships, this strong force around the world. Congress says, "What are you doing? We're not paying for this." And he says, "We'll deal with that. Go." And these 16 ships sail around the world as a sign of peace but strength, and it works. America is recognized as a strong power. Panama Canal, McKinley wanted it through Nicaragua, and Congress was stopping the whole thing. He pushes it through, gets Congress to sign on, and then goes down there and shows how the Panama Canal is being constructed.
It's a remarkable book. I think it's your best, and you've written some really fantastic books. It's right up there with your Reagan book as far as I'm concerned. To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. You can go right to Amazon right now, grab your copy. It'll be delivered to you. Or tomorrow when you're shopping, tonight, any of the, big warehouse stores or bookstores. By the way, Barnes & Noble has really muscled up the number of stores. It's beautiful now. Don't you like Barnes & Noble? Have you been there lately, Brett?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love going in there and just walking around and having a coffee.
Yeah, me too. And you're going to be at the Reagan Library. I think that's my favorite place in the world. You love it too, right? You're there often.
I love it. I love it. I've been there every book, and they come out in big force. Yeah. And let me tell one quick story, Mark, before you let me go, because signing at the Reagan Library, I did the 3-day series, the Eisenhower and Reagan and FDR. And I'm doing the FDR book, signing the books. A guy comes up to me and says, "Listen, I'm an 8th grade teacher, and I have a 3 days class with my 8th graders, and I'm using all 3 of your books."
Wow.
And I said, "This is exactly why I did this." And so I zoomed into that class for 2 hours.
Oh,
and,
wow.
It was the best part of the whole process.
Isn't that cool? And it's just a great place there. I get, they give me a cot, I'll live in the place. That's how much, That's how much you love it.
I agree.
All right, Brett Baer. Fantastic book. To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. We wish you all the best. Give the folks at their library our best, and God bless you. Be safe.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
I even choked him up. See that? He's a good man, Brett Baer. He really is.